Social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, the app formerly known as Twitter, and Reddit have taken over our phones, our lives, and the world. Of course, I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but if you spend any length of time on these apps, that is how they make you feel. So let's discuss why I gave it all up for 30 days. Now, I'm not saying, hey, you need to get off social media right now, delete it all. But if you're here, I'm assuming that leaving social media is something you've already done or you're interested in. But in case you're not, I want to go over just a few things to help persuade you to rethink your relationship with social media. In a study released just a few weeks ago in Communication Psychology Online magazine, researchers studied teens experiencing social isolation. They found that real-life isolation might lead to an increased sensitivity to positive and negative feedback, especially social feedback in adolescence. This means that when we are not having regular and healthy relationships with other human beings, the reward centers in our brains can be more affected when we do receive rewards and more likely to go seek those rewards out, even if they are harmful to us. The natural reward center craves a chemical called dopamine. In their article for Innovation and Tech Today, Lindsay Feth interviews Dr. Alok Konigia, which I hope I'm saying right, also known as Dr. K, a psychiatrist and co-founder of the mental health coaching company Healthy Gamer, who calls excessive tech usage an invasive species for the brain. Dr. K explains he calls excessive tech use that because that's what it feels like. Video games, apps, algorithms, they've cropped up everywhere, and the problem isn't just addiction anymore. It's attention, emotional regulation, even basic motivation. Our brain loves dopamine, a chemical that our bodies release to our brains when we do something enjoyable, for example, eating good food, listening to music, or having sex. Dopamine is an influencer. It is released by nerve cells into the brain, where it helps regulate movement, motivation, reward, and pleasure. The more consistently we seek out dopamine, the more our brain craves it. And if you have a condition like ADHD, which causes your body to produce less of its own dopamine, it can become even harder to break away from dopamine-giving things like social media. So when you live in a state of constantly chasing this dopamine for long enough, the brain adapts by becoming numb to it. Things that used to bring pleasure, like reading, being outside, or friendship, don't feel quite as rewarding anymore. That leads to what is called emotional flattening, a lack of motivation, a sense of meaningless. I wouldn't say that I've personally ever been quote unquote addicted to social media. I was pretty late into the MySpace scene, joining it after Facebook started up, and I've always preferred to talk to my family and friends in person, or at least by giving them a text or a phone call. I really don't use social media as much as my peers, I think. In fact, I have mainly used my social medias for this channel just to update about videos and to post cute pictures of my cat, of course. But I do have ADHD, which is, as I said earlier, a condition that affects your body's ability to produce its own dopamine. So you seek it from outside sources. And I have been a victim of doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is defined as the act of spending an excessive amount of time reading large quantities of user-generated content or news, particularly negative news, on the web and social media. It can be considered a form of internet addiction disorder. In 2019, a study by the National Academy of Sciences found that doom scrolling can be linked to a decline in mental and physical health, and that is from the Wikipedia page on doom scrolling. Giving up social media has been linked to such benefits as improved sleep, reduced eye strain, lower risk of obesity, and of course, improved mental health. On apps like Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and others, the algorithm, the automated system that decides what to show people by a series of calculations based on what has already been viewed, liked, or shared, pushes negative political content above anything creative or interesting. As a result, I personally have felt more depressed and stressed and anxious, all signs that something wasn't right mentally with continued scrolling on social media. And I wanted to combat this feeling. Obviously, I deleted all of my social media apps, and that was it. That helped. That did it. No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't delete everything off of my phone because I have a Google phone. So all of the Google apps like YouTube are built into the phone, and there's no way to get rid of them without downloading an outside app to hide them. And I didn't want to do that. I did start by removing all of these apps from my phone homepage. I ended up like re-downloading or replacing YouTube and YouTube Studio on my homepage so that I could translate comments, which is not possible on the platform versions such as on the PS4, and to edit other videos that I'm currently working on. But I did try to limit my commenting on videos themselves, which I will get into more later. I also found new hobbies. This included things like crafts, doodling or sketching, bird watching, more video gaming. Since I do have ADHD, I have a problem with fidgeting. I say problem. It's really just my body's way of releasing the extra energy, and pop sockets make an excellent fidget toy. I have this Bulbasaur one on my phone, which is really fun to play with. It spins and then you can pop it up and down, obviously. So that really helped keep my fingers busy when I wanted to be scrolling. Another thing is that I am a skin picker with keratosis pilaris, which if you're not familiar is a overproduction of keratin in the skin, and it causes little bumps. Mostly for me, it's places like my arms and my legs. So I had to find other things for my fingers to do besides to pick at that. So what I did find were these little pixel art things at Michael's, kind of like those little diamond things that a lot of older women are into. But I'm not really ashamed of that, because finding little crafts and little things to do with your fingers when you have ADHD is so important to keep you from doom scrolling. So these little pixel art things were actually super helpful, and I will probably continue to do it, although it's a little bit hard for my old eyeballs to see these little squares because they're so tiny. I also really got into sewing. I have a lot of projects and things that I've had kind of on the back burner, things to mend, things to do with clothes that I have that I just haven't gotten around to because I've been spending all of my extra time doom scrolling. This t-shirt I am really proud of. I took 2 t-shirts and I made one ringer tee out of them. This pink shirt was a I Like Girls Generation shirt, and I was going to put the I Like Girls part on the front of this ringer tee, but it just didn't sit right for me, and I didn't like how it felt on the shirt. Like, it felt like there were 2 shirts there, because essentially there were, and it just didn't feel good to me. So I took that off, and then I embroidered these little flowers on it, which I really like. I might go in and add a couple more because there is a bleach stain on the t-shirt that I want to cover, and you can still see a few of the holes from where I tried to sew that other patch on. But otherwise, I think it turned out really cute. And I've got more into video gaming. I have a Switch Lite. I got 2 new games. I got The Tiny Bookshop and I got Ritual of Raven, and both are really cute, cozy games. One is where you run your own tiny bookshop. It's in the name of the game. And then the second one is where you play a person who traveled through a portal into a world where magic exists, and then you get to learn how to be a witch. And it's a lot like Animal Crossing in the sense where you plant things and you harvest them, and there's a lot of grinding that has to be done to get these spells done. But those are both really cute games that I would suggest for people who like gaming and are trying to get away from doom scrolling. So the third thing that I did was I searched for things that I follow on social media to see if they have a newsletter, either a digital one or a physical one. For example, most towns or cities have kind of a free newsletter that they send out with events, which is a great way to find out what local things are happening in your area and what you might want to get involved with to find new people to connect with in person. I only really have one friend outside of my family that I talk to on a regular basis, and while she is absolutely lovely and I love her, she is a long distance friend. So I wanted to find more in-person friends, and I thought this would be a good way to try that. So I joined a thing called Real Roots, which promises to match you with a group of other women or AFAB people, and they claim that you will make at least one friend. This video isn't sponsored or anything, but I think this is a great idea in theory. But the full course of, I think it's 7 meetups, costs nearly $300, which is not exactly affordable for an unemployed disabled person such as myself. And while I did have someone that was willing to help me pay for that, my main gripe with this app is that they don't really seem to listen to the people that they are matching up, because I think the main reason for that was because our group leader was kind of annoying. So that's the main drawback of this, is that you're committing $300 to a group of people that you don't even know if you'll like. They do rematch you if you don't like your group, which I did try to do, but they put me with the same leader who was the problem to begin with. Like, I was fine with the people in the group that I was in, but the leader I just didn't click with. So I kind of gave up on that idea, but it might work for you. So you could go try it out if you want. I did find other local meetups though. This could also be achieved through the aforementioned local newsletters, and you can also check your local library. Your local library is always a great resource for meetups. A lot of libraries host group events that you can go to meet new people. A lot of them also have notice boards that will show you what kind of events are going on in your area. So that is always a great place to start. You don't even have to go to the library to find these things. A lot of them just have them on their websites. So go check those out. Support your local libraries, please. And I did also find a local bookstore that has a newsletter. I subscribed to this newsletter and I have really been enjoying reading it. Plus, reading something on my phone that isn't social media or bad news kind of fulfills that scrolling habit. So if any of the people or places that you follow on social media currently offer a newsletter, I would say sign up for that so that you can get that sent to you without having to go on social media. So the next thing that I did was I only checked news on news websites or on YouTube, since I currently don't have television access. If you have TV, or if you have like a satellite or anything that hooks up to television service, that would be a better way of getting your news, but I would encourage you to not watch it 24/7 because A, it's very repetitive, but B, it'll just keep you in that doom scrolling type of mindset where all you're getting is negativity, which is really not great for our brains. Again, if you have like a Google phone or something like that where the homepage has news on it and you can just scroll through the headlines to get a gist, there's also a lot of other apps and services out there that kind of like summarize the news for you. So those would be really cool to check out too. The next thing that I did was I only used YouTube to watch videos, no comments. This was kind of cheating because I did make comments on videos, which I'll get into in the next part about what I struggled with during this time. But I do have my replies turned off. So nobody can at me on YouTube. I don't get notifications when somebody replies to a comment I made. It is kind of cathartic sometimes to be able to put your thoughts out into the ether without like having anybody comment back or any kind of expectation on those things. It's just kind of like get your thoughts out there. But a better way to do this would definitely be journaling, to write down your thoughts about things that you consume and get those down in a journal format, which is kind of the same thing because nobody else can see it, nobody else can reply to it. So it's very much more the way to go if you're trying to cut out social media than what I did. But I also did not allow myself to access social media through the internet, which again, I can't get rid of on my phone. So I just kind of removed those bookmarks from my internet browser so that I wouldn't be tempted to peek at them. I did peek at them a few times. Obviously, I'm not perfect. Nobody is, but it just really helped to not have it right there and easy to access. The next thing I did was something that my kid actually introduced me to, which is the randomize button on Wikipedia. It's kind of like an algorithm, except it's more educational. So instead of a almighty algorithm that is trying to get your money, it's just a randomize button. Completely randomizes an article on Wikipedia for you to read. I read about a lot of different things, including about Henry VIII and the dissolution of the monasteries for a good 20 minutes. And this is probably a good thing to try when you are first trying to give up social media. It kind of fulfills that random hit of dopamine that TikTok and the like usually do, but it is so much more educational for you. And the last thing that I started to do is I started to apply for real life jobs. Of course, if you have a full-time job already or a couple of full-time jobs, you're probably not going to spend as much time doom scrolling. And if you do, it's very much an escapism thing, and I seriously don't blame you for it. But even just applying for jobs and the process of writing up your resume and making sure all of that is all good just really fills up a lot of time that could be filled struggled with mindless doom scrolling. And maybe I'll get into this in a future video about kind of like life changes and that kind of thing, big life changes, and how to deal with that. So subscribe if you want to see more of that journey. So I committed to doing all of these things for at least 1 month. From August 15th to September 15th, I gave up on scrolling on social media. And like I mentioned, I did slip up now and then, just like any addict might, but I tried to give myself grace in those moments. So how did my new hobbies turn out? Well, I read a lot more. I tackled some books on my TBR list that I had been meaning to read, and I felt a lot more mentally fulfilled than I would have just by scrolling social media all day. I didn't do a whole lot of baking or cooking. It has been really hot outside until like this past week, but I did think more about what I was eating because I wasn't scrolling while doing so. It's not so much about dieting as it is just being mindful about what you're putting in your body. And I did a lot of things that I have been procrastinating. You might notice if you're a regular viewer of mine, I have more things on the walls and the backgrounds. I put up these record shelves, which I really like because I can display my record collection now. I also went through a lot of stuff that I own to give away, and this just really gave my mind and my hands and my body something to do besides scrolling, and it made me feel more accomplished at the end of the day. So if you have a large to-do list of things that you've been meaning to get to, now is the time to do it. And I learned that I noticed I was paying more attention to what I was watching, and I was thinking more about those topics rather than just watching a video for background noise. While I did do this a little bit while gaming or doing crafts, it was just easier to have that media kind of soak into my mind more rather than scrolling the whole entire time. And here's what I actually learned from my month off of social media. So the first thing I learned is that I actually hate apps. Why does everything have to have an app? Sure, it's an easy way to do things like parking, for example. We don't have to carry coins or cash, but we could just, I don't know, we could just use cards for these, or we could just go back to using cash. Like, what's so wrong with that? I just don't understand it. But like, why does my vet's office have an app? I don't need that. I can call the office if I need to make an appointment or if I have any questions. I don't need an app. So I did decide after all of this to reduce the amount of apps that I don't really need, which gives me less to look at and interact with on my phone to begin with, which is a good step. The second thing that I learned is that I was using my phone as a fidget. As I mentioned, I do have ADHD, and I definitely felt that lack of outside dopamine when I first started this experiment. I just kind of realized that I had to fill that hole with other more productive things, such as connecting more personally with friends and family. So a lot of my family I already just call or text or see in person. But like I mentioned with friends, that was another story completely. A lot of people just don't want to give out their phone numbers anymore to someone that they barely know or just met. And social media always seems like a safer way to communicate. So I did challenge myself to ask people that I met in person for their phone numbers instead. And I actually did connect with other people that aren't big on social media either. So this is something else that I learned, was that a lot of other people are not huge into using social media either, which is great because then you find more like-minded people that you can get along with and talk to, not just on social media. Of course, if you already have a big social group, this could be an easier thing to do. You just have to let your friends and family know that you'll be off social media for a time. Try coordinating fun things with them yourself if they aren't up for this task. Of course, it will kind of be difficult at first, but making a habit with friends or family to meet up in person on a regular basis to do something fun will make it a lot easier. So the next thing I learned was that I started to think, do I really need to be entertained every second of the day by something that is specifically made to be addictive? And the answer to that, of course, is no. I can find other things to entertain myself with, and I certainly did. Think of when your power goes out. What do? Maybe read a book by candlelight or flashlight, play a board game, sew that hole in that shirt that you've been meaning to mend, make a weird charcuterie board of things from your fridge or freezer before they go bad. These are all things that you can do every day instead of doom scrolling or just scrolling on social media. So the last thing I noticed was that I realized that I don't need to comment on every situation that I see. And this is because it basically becomes the same conclusion over and over again. There's just a few things in our world that cause all the horrible things that we see in the news, right? Capitalism, racism, bigotry, patriarchy, etc. Of course, creators on social media are getting my engagement by making me feel like I need to comment on their videos. A lot of social media's intent is to make us irritable. From an article from Northeastern, if you're older, more educated, and have a higher income, you're much less likely to be irritable. You're also much less likely to be using social media. Rage baiting, for example, is huge right now. And these people are just doing these things while rage baiting to get people to interact with their content. And these interactions, of course, give them more money. Constantly consuming negativity, it makes us more negative. You are what you eat, after all. Of course, like I said, this doesn't mean I'm avoiding all negative things in the world, because that's not good either. Being well informed about what is happening is important. But instead, I changed how I interacted with these things. So how does it feel to watch something online and not comment on it? I felt like this was the most addicting part for me, because I want my voice to be heard, and that's okay. But it doesn't always need to be heard. Oftentimes, someone else has already made a comment on a YouTube video about what I was thinking anyways, so just reading their comment makes me feel less alone. And I can always discuss things in real life with people that I know. I don't need to do this commenting thing with books or movies or TV shows. Although, does anybody else remember when Hulu had comments? That was an interesting time. But why do I feel the need to do so with social media or even YouTube videos? Because that's what these sites were created for. They want comments for the creator, but also for the site itself, because it does give a dopamine hit every time you see likes on your comment or replies, because those give us confirmation bias. Even negative replies can engage the same spot in the brain that positivity does. And the more they engage you and keep you scrolling, the more money their website will make. So just knowing this capitalistic mindset behind social media makes it so much more easier for me to not engage with it as much, because I don't want to support that. I want to be more mindful with where and how I spend my time and my money. And that is just not on websites or apps that are specifically geared to make you more addicted to them. So it is just so weird that being addicted to social media is what we are primed for now from a very young age. Instead of connecting with people on a more personal level, we connect over our shared rage or love for something online. And it is shallow, purposefully, because this keeps us on these apps and sites longer. It also keeps us from connecting in person over things that actually matter. The connections that we could be making with each other for community and support are blinded by these rage bait posts. They pretend like they matter, but nobody's actually doing anything about them in real life. Of course, there is nothing wrong with finding community online and using social media in a healthy way. A lot of those of us who are disabled have this as our first line of contact with people, because it's hard for us to get out in the real world, and even just dissociating for like half an hour or so each week to give your mind a break. That's not a bad thing. But it's also not what social medias are designed for. And as long as you keep that in mind and be careful, then social media can be fine. Just know that for me personally, it's not a replacement for real life relationship and community. It's kind of like a supplement, like vitamin C or something. It's okay to go on there every once in a while, kind of like the top of the food pyramid, but it shouldn't be what we go to first to fulfill ourselves. We need human connection. We need exercise and sunlight and water. We're just complex cucumbers after all. I will be definitely cutting social media out of my life permanently. I think I'm just going to keep Instagram just to look at every once in a while to see kind of what's going on. But I will continue to fill the majority of my downtime in my life with more productive things. If you're thinking of quitting social media yourself, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what your plans are to replace social media in your life. Or if you've already done so and have tips for other people, leave those down there too. And of course, here I am encouraging you to engage with social media, mine specifically. And I do see the irony in that. But I think that there are certainly healthy ways to do it, like I said. There are ways to adapt your algorithms, feed you what you want them. You have to kind of train them like a puppy, right? You have to dislike all the things, scroll past all of the bad things that you don't want to see, and only like the things that you do want to see. There is kind of a way to like fix it so that you can see exactly what you want to see on social media, and I don't think that's bad either. As long as you are using social media in a way to uplift yourself and other people, then it's not bad. But I hope you do give it a go if you are wanting to reduce your doom scrolling. Even check in with this video a month from now. Let me know how it goes. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe. Again, I'm telling you to engage with social media, but I feel like my space on the internet is really just not a space that I want to pressure people into engaging with, or again, rage baiting people into engaging with. It's a huge reason why I've stopped making these kind of more inflammatory videos about pop culture and things like that. I want to fill this space with more positivity. So if that's something that you're wanting to stick around with, again, do all those things. You can follow me on my Instagram, which is kind of dead right now. It is Melody Knox, one word, Knox with a 0. I will link it and put it on the screen so that you know what it is. But thanks again for watching this video. Thanks for being here. And as always, don't forget to drink some water, take your medicine, and eat something today if you haven't done those 3 things yet. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.